All right, thank you so much for coming. I have the honor of trying to bring you down off of the high that you're on and getting it back down to a normal level. So I'm going to teach you the thing that I first learned that really worked on facing temptation. And I was at the place where, when I say facing temptation, I would leave home at 7:30 in the morning. I would drive to Boston, 200 miles away. I would spend 15 minutes in a certain pornography shop doing what people do in pornography shops, and I'm sure the women are totally unaware of this. And come home and tell my wife I had a bad sales day. I was a compulsive, obsessive, totally hooked person. Now, at the beginning of this program, I taught you a little bit about, or told you a little bit about my history, and then I mentioned the fact that I had 14 years before I got through the process. In that 14 years, I had 4 small bowel resections, 58 transfusions, 2 suicide attempts, and I was a total liar, a total fake. I worked for a church as a principal and a teacher in a Christian denomination, and they knew nothing, but I ran the outside nightlife. You can't live 2 lives. Your body will rebel. And when I finally met somebody that said, I've done it, I've come out of it. What happened was, I was home one evening. I had just gotten back from California about 6 months before. By the way, I left my wife, abandoned my children, flew to California, and joined the Metropolitan Community Church. The title of my first book is, Hey God, You're Doing It Backwards, because he sent me to a gay church to get straight. But it's the only place in the Christian community, if you want to class it as part of the Christian community, that I could go and be accepted and acceptable. So I left home one day. I found a book in a library called The Lord is My Shepherd and He Knows I'm Gay. It was written by a fellow who claimed to be a Reverend Troy Perry. And his assistant was named Willie Smith, and Willie Smith was part of my denomination. They kicked him out because he wanted to be a movie projectionist. I came from a fundamental group. You did not do certain things. But I had these proclivities. And God had touched me. I told you about the fact, he that has begun a good work in you will finish it. And I never gave up on it. But I bled over it. And I cried over it. And one guy said, go out and get married, so I went out and got married over it. That was annulled after 2.5 years because something didn't work too well. Oh, you want to get in trouble? Have your ex-wife contact you on Facebook when your wife is your Facebook partner. Happened about 2 weeks ago. Luckily, I hadn't responded, so I lived through that one. But anyway, I did everything backwards and everything wrong to come out of this orientation. But God was still working behind the scenes. You see, when he has a plan, he doesn't give up. And if you don't follow the plan, he goes to plan B. And then he goes to plan C if he has to. And I think he made a little higher in the alphabet with me. But I ended up in California one Sunday night, or Sunday morning, with $6, actually it was a Thursday morning, pardon me. And it was about the 5th of October. I had run away from home. This was 1975. I bought an America Pass, $75 or $76 because it was 1976 coming up, you know, the big anniversary. $75 or $76 got you 30 days unlimited bus travel. And I went to California. Abandoned my whole life because I needed to either get in or get out. You know, there's a statement about a prophet that stood on a mountain one day and said, if the Lord be God, serve him. But as for me and my house, we will.
We will, sir.
And a double-minded man is unstable in all that he does, and let not that man think that he shall receive anything. Well, if you haven't guessed it, everything here this weekend has been pretty much neutral religious-wise, so I get to take a hit, okay? You're going to get it from here. It's going to verify everything that these gentlemen have been saying. The point is, we can say it their way and get it into the school systems. If we say it this way, you won't get through the front door. But I'm in an audience that does understand what I'm talking about, I think. So anyway, I end up in California. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I had read this book about this church that actually accepted gay people. But how do you find it? Because I just ran away. I didn't even take a suitcase with me. I just got on a plane, got on a bus, and went to California. Broke. I had $6.32 or something like that in my pocket when I arrived in California. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. I came down the mountainside in California and I looked over and they were burning California. Guess what they're doing this October? They're burning California. They do it every year. Gorgeous, beautiful sight at night. I mean, it is spectacular. I get into Los Angeles and the idea comes, how do I possibly find this church? Well, when you want to find anything gay in California, there's one sure way to do it. Go to a porn shop. Because they have a directory. They're so well organized, they have a directory of every event and everything that's going on anywhere. So I walked across the street from the bus station and there was a porn shop, as there is in every community just about in this country. They put them there for a reason. They know that the people traveling aren't at home and they can come in and be anonymous and get what they want and spend money. I went over, there was the directory right on the counter, flipped it open, put my finger down, and it landed on the Metropolitan Community Church. This was the first Metropolitan Community Church in the United States. It was in Los Angeles. I dialed the telephone number. Somebody answered. 6 o'clock in the morning, somebody answered at the church, a live person. If you're in crisis and call your pastor today, what are your chances at 6 a.m.? And they said, come around the corner. We're only 3 blocks away. I went around the corner and they woke the pastor up, got him out of bed, brought him down, and he was waiting for me by the time I got there. You know they're well organized? They had clothing for me because my clothes could have walked in by themselves at that point. I'd been 5 days on the bus. I needed food. They fed me. I needed a shower. They had showers. I needed housing. They had housing. I needed clothes. They had clothing. I needed counseling. They had a pastor that got out of bed in the morning and actually came and did his job and loved me and accepted me and told me that I was going to be okay. And I began to believe that God had sent me there. Now, how many of you believe, honestly, that God would send a person to a gay church on purpose? Let me see your hands. Any brave ones? Maybe. If it's where you need to go, where's God going to send you?
Where you need to go.
I needed to be affirmed as a person before I could be affirmed as a man. And the right guy was there waiting for me. Okay, by 10 o'clock in the morning, I had regurgitated every sin of my life. This poor pastor, I mean, I just dumped on him. You know what happens when you pull out the first stone in a big dam? You know, it just begins to flow, and all of a sudden you've got a hole about this big. And I just dumped. And when it was all said and done, he just gave me a big hug and said, you're going to be okay. Now he said, we have a place for you to stay, but if you want to stay here, you have to go and try to get a job. You got to go apply for a job. That's part of the requirement at our they had a halfway house for people coming in who wanted to go gay. They had everything. He said, you have to go apply for a job, but you're not going to get one. Because nobody without current ID and identification and an address is going to get one. But I said, okay, I'll do what you tell me to. I'll walk around for 3 hours and come back, and I will bring back the name of 4 or 5 places I've applied for a job. So I walk out, go up the street about 1.5 miles, no, 3 blocks. And there's a big sign, help wanted, parking lot attendant. Now, I know how to drive. Actually, all I had to do is sit there in the booth and take the money, right? I went in, applied, the guy said, sorry, we can't use you. I turned around, I was walking away, the telephone rang. He said, wait a minute, come back here. He said, one of our valet parkers at the Hyatt Regency just quit. Can you be to work at 3 o'clock this afternoon? Because I was old enough and mature enough that he knew he wasn't getting a drug addict. And I said, sure. Now what's the difference between a parking lot attendant and a valet parker?
You have the keys.
Tips. What did I not have?
Money.
Money. I made $50 tips the first night.
Wow.
And $50 a day after that, every day that I worked in California for the next 3 months.
Wow.
God gave me a salary and tips. I walked back in the church and they about had a heart attack. They said, boy, God's taking care of you. Okay. Yeah, you got it. He started me when I was 14 and he's still working on me. That Sunday, I went to church. They told my story from the rostrum. 500 gay men applauded my presence. I had just been disfellowshipped by the church that I went to before. I thought I was going to be hugged to death. And I began to feel like I was totally acceptable. For the next 3 months, I studied the gay theology with the man that wrote it. I marched in the 2nd gay parade in the United States. I sang in the gay choir on the steps of the City Hall of Los Angeles. I went to everything I could do to learn about the lifestyle until one Sunday morning, a week before Christmas. The preacher stood up and he said, I have seen a miracle. We have taken a boy from the S&M lifestyle, whips, chains, pain, you know, all that stuff that's deeper and more black, and brought him to a normal gay relationship. Translated, the pastor had a date. Complete date. My brain said, if God can take him from sadomasochism and bring him to a normal gay relationship, God can take me from here and put me over there.
That's right.
And then the pastor said, it's Christmas week. Some of us have abandoned our families. We have to take responsibility for our families. And the light went off. I have to go home. God took me there. He led me there. He taught me there. He showed me what I wanted, what he needed to give me there. And now he's taking me home. So I left.